Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. This is Ben Kinney, joined today with Chad Himes and Bob Stewart.
Wait, who? Ben Kinney?
And Chad Himes. We are back, Bob Stewart. You're not taking over this podcast.
Man, I thought I was going to replace you guys. I had a new co-host in here for a little while, but I'm glad to see you guys.
Yeah, you did do a good job there with Brian, but you cannot replace us. We are like a rash. We grow on you over time. You cannot get rid of us. Ladies and gentlemen,
Penicillin.
Today we're going to have another leadership lesson. Have you ever been in a situation with your family or with somebody at work, and they're coming to you and they're complaining or venting to you about something that you have no ability to change?
I think I just did that to you like 5 seconds ago, Ben.
I was going to say, is that a real question? I mean, that's absolutely.
Right? And only thing it really does is lower your mood and lower your productivity, because now you're thinking about Bob's ridiculous problem that he should be able to figure out on his own without bothering us.
Yep.
Right? You ever seen parents or heard of parents or had your parents fight about money or problems in front of you as a kid? And you as a child, you look around and you're like, there's nothing I can do about my parents' money problems or relationship problems or whatever. But you as a child, you take ownership of that. It bothers you. Well, there's this concept, Chad, that we came up with a really long time ago, and I call it a leadership lesson. And it's a concept that we called trickling. Now, trickling is a weird word. Reminds me of what happened to me at the fair when I was a young kid, and I couldn't
tell this story. What?
And I couldn't find the restroom quick enough. But ladies and gentlemen, that is not the type of trickling that we're talking about today. We're talking about how you can trickle ideas or problems or concerns or gossip or any of those types of things, secrets, up, down, and laterally.
Right. It goes all directions. We've all heard, I shouldn't say that. Almost everybody has probably heard the term trickle down economics.
Yeah.
Right? And everything trickles downstream in that situation. And this is where this first came from for you, because people around you in the world were trickling down. And you became very clear is there are certain things that should trickle down. There are also some things that should never trickle down. They needed to trickle up or trickle sideways in that situation.
Chad, I had it when you said everybody's heard the phrase. I thought you were going to say shit rolls downhill. Like I thought for sure that's
trickles
where
downhill.
you were going.
Same
It
thing.
trickles downhill. Okay.
Yep.
Kind of like that. So if you're following along with us today, do me a favor, grab a piece of paper, grab your favorite Sharpie, and just right in the center of a piece of paper, just draw the letter U. And
Good job, Bob.
We're creating a world where the center of the universe is you today on this piece of paper. We exist in the center. In the center, where you have you, I want you to draw arrows pointing into the U and arrows pointing out away from the U laterally. Right.
Right from the side of the page. Come into the U
And
go
out
out from the U on both sides, left and right.
That's trickling laterally. Here be an example. We're in a lateral position, Bob and Chad. We're all peers.
Yep.
So when we're talking about things that are going on in our lives, I'm doing that because I consider you guys friends, and I'm sharing, right? Well, somebody that wouldn't be a peer, that wouldn't be laterally, that would be below you in this drawing. So now below the you draw a couple of arrows down. One example would be your children. Your children look up to you, right? The things that you say end up coming out of their mouths. Bob.
Just because my kid said the F word, okay, these guys, I told him the story. He said the F word at school. He's 2. Yeah. Not
Bob,
good.
what I don't understand is, why were you yelling the F word at your child?
No, he probably heard me say, what the F are you doing at the Seahawks or the Mariners or, something like that.
So they listen to these things and they pick it up.
You're trickling down.
Yeah, trickling down. The right way to trickle down would be to like your children or to your employees, people that you mentor, people that you coach, your customers would be positive things. would be accountability. So below the U, just write accountability.
And positivity.
Yeah, accountability, positive remarks, reinforcing things. That's what Bob should be trickling down to his children. Models, systems, plans, those types of things, because we want our children and our employees and the people that work in our world to get the same positive results that we've gotten.
Yep.
Well, what is it that you don't trickle down? You don't trickle problems down to your employees. You don't trickle your venting about your boss down to your employees. You don't trickle down to your kids about a fight you had with your spouse. You don't trickle down to your kids about financial problems that you're having because, well, especially young kids, they can't do anything about it.
So basically what you're saying is we don't trickle down things that people below us can't do anything about.
Yeah, things
There's
that
just
can't
no
change.
reason to bring it to their attention or drag them into it because it's only going to have a negative impact.
I remember, sitting in this single wide trailer that I was raised in, and the walls, I don't even know if they have insulation in those things, and laying in this bunk bed that I shared, the up and down with my sister, depending on if she was living there then, and hearing my mom and my stepfather fight about things. And the most common thing that they fought about was money. And especially when they were drunk or high or whatever that situation might be. And I remember praying at night, one, for them to stop drinking, smoking, doing drugs, but two, for them to figure out their money problems. And as a kid, that is not a burden that I should have had to carry, right? If they had to fight about it, they should have went outside, or it wasn't something that a child should have to hear about.
This is why you created the Wealth series. I mean, because so many kids do hear those conversations, because just like Bob's yelling at the TV or having a conversation with his wife, he doesn't even realize the kids are sometimes listening.
Yeah.
And we will have these financial conversations. We know it's the number one cause actually of divorce is financial stress in relationships. The kids are naturally going to hear it if you're not being conscious of this trickle-down concept. And remember to have those conversations after they go to bed, when they're not around, and you can be in another room not yelling and screaming where you're not going to have them awake listening, because they're going to be raised with that mindset that so many have about money breeds problems.
Yeah. My mom was a waitress, so I have and a janitor, but I remember her being a waitress mostly of my life. And you're in a restaurant sometimes and you see somebody at another table throwing a fit and just being mean to the waitress. And they're sitting there with their kids, and I guarantee you that a vast majority of those children are going to behave the same way.
Yep.
That example trickled down to the children of how you treat people. You see people fighting or swearing or going out at school, I bet you they pick that up from inadvertently watching their parents have that fight or that battle or fight with their boss or yell at the TV screen or whatever that might be, right? They pick it up. So we have to be very careful when we're trickling things down. In leadership, Chad, I caught myself a couple times treating some of my employees like my peers. And because I care about them, I'm friends with a lot of my people. I walked in one day and I heard somebody say something about a customer or about something. And I heard those words because they were mine. And I saw that my message or my frustrations trickled down to that leader who then was saying it to the next person. And I had to immediately go back and say, I'm going to change how I talk to that person.
Right. So you've got to be careful, because a lot of us, as we're leading people, we also are in a relationship with those people, friends or children or whatever it is. We've got to remember the different hats we're always wearing, because in sometimes you have to remember, I'm here talking to a friend. We can talk about this. Like we just had a conversation about movies over lunch. You can have that conversation with friends. But then there are certain things that you don't bring to that table, because that would just be trickling down if you were bringing it to Bob and Dave and I while we were sitting there.
Yeah, so we talk about what are the things we trickle down, positive things, accountability, models, systems, etc. But another way to put it is we trickle energy down. because every interaction we have with somebody is either taking their energy or giving them energy. There's no neutral energy transferred between two parties. It is all about us leaving that person with more energy when we're done or leaving them with less energy. And what happens, Bob, is we don't always realize that we're the ones taking that happiness, that joy, and that energy away from the people that we interact with every day.
I think one of the reasons for that is the lack of awareness, but it really stems from this idea that, like, I'm at the center, right? Like, a lot of people, and look, I'm guilty of this. I think we're all guilty of this. Some days you do it better than others, and some days you just kind of bull in a china shop through life, right? Through leadership, through being in the office, and you're just not aware. You're not aware.
Yeah.
A lot of this just starts with awareness, right? I say the F word when I'm watching the Seahawks game, totally unaware that my kid's over there ready to pick it up and take it to his Montessori school.
But what you're doing is you're also creating Seahawk fans in this example for your kid, because you are trickling down the excitement and the passion for your team. They'll probably grow up being Seahawk fans.
Yeah.
Yet they're also listening to the language that you're using, and they'll cheer the exact same way.
All right.
So as we look at this drawing, we have you still in the center, and we have arrows going down, and we've talked about those are to our employees, our children, the people we coach or we mentor. Around us, this is our peers, and I'd also put this is our family. As we become adults, our family becomes, especially as the matriarchal and the patriarchal roles kind of balance themselves out, right? It's no longer mom and dad. There's that shift of power where we're all kind of equal. These are the people we share things with, we open up with, we talk about. You have to be careful in the center that you don't allow the wrong people to influence you. So do me a favor and just draw a little wall right around the U in the center.
On the left and the right of the U,
Yeah.
draw a little wall there protecting between the U and those arrows. So we're protecting what's coming in.
We're building the Great Wall of China around ourselves from our peers, our friends, our coworkers in similar roles, and our family. We have to understand that we are the people that allow things into our life.
Can we just call it the Great Wall of Ben then?
It'd be the Great Wall of Chad on your
me,
paper. But
right?
on my paper,
Yep.
this is the Great Wall of
But
Ben.
to extend the metaphor, it's not just this impassable wall. You're building the wall so that you have a gate there and you control what gets through from your peers, right? It's not just like I'm putting this wall up between me and my peers. I'm saying I'm going to control that. So we need a gate in our wall.
Yeah, and the gate is also to control what you deposit to our peers as well.
Yeah.
Like here's a big example. You walk out into a sales floor and you go to somebody else and you say, these leads are no good. You have the Glenn Ross speech and like, the leads are weak, these leads are crap, these leads are no good. The next person sitting next to you, they start picking that up and they say, yeah, these leads are crappy. Well, if I walked into another room and I said, hey, Chad, these leads are awesome. I just got 4 sales by calling these leads. When Chad picked up the phone to call those leads, he's looking for 4 sales. When I went into Bob and I said, these leads are weak, the leads are crap, Bob's picking up the phone thinking, oh, what a waste of time. I have to call these 4 people. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So we have to be very careful what we trickle out to our peers and what we let in.
Now, and you'll get to this, so we won't dive into it in detail. That doesn't mean you're never allowed to say in this example, the leads are bad. That doesn't mean you're not allowed to say the food was bad at the restaurant or something was bad. We're just not trickling sideways in that situation.
We're very careful that our actions are not dragging other people down. The negative or the crass comment that we always make on the podcast is we don't poop in other people's kitchens. Right? You walk into the office, you look at the copy machine, you're like, trying to make copies, and the freaking copy machine's broke. Right? The copy machine's broke. It's irritating because you only have 30 minutes before your appointment. So you walk into the kitchen, you grab your little cup of coffee, and Bob walks in. You're like, Bob, you're not going to believe this. The freaking copy machine's broke.
Right.
Can you believe that? We pay all this money, right, for this space here, and I can't get a freaking copy? Like, what kind of a company do we work at? Bob goes walking out, and somebody says, hey, what's wrong with Chad? And like, the freaking copy machine's broke. Can you believe that? So we have 7 people talking about the copy machine being broke, instead of just calling the one person in the office that seems to have the magic touch that can always fix the copy machine.
And that would be trickling up to the right person in that situation.
If we did.
Right.
But most people don't. Most people sit there and complain about the leads, the copy machine, the coffee, the power, the economy, whatever that might be, and they drag other people down. We have a duty to lift our peers and our family and those below us up.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to draw some arrows pointing up from the U, we would call this trickling up. Who do we trickle up to? God.
Yep.
Let's pray and say, I need some help today because he has some power to help us.
Yep.
Our boss. Hey, I'm going to go to the person in the company that has the ability and power to change. A coach.
Yep.
Or a mentor. Somebody that you've hired or that you engage with or that you hold in high regard, right? One of those 5 or 6 people that are going to be the people that lead you in those areas. That's who you trickle up to. So what do you trickle to them? Problems, but only problems that you want to solve.
That's an important distinction, Ben. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, if you walked into a room and you say, Chad, this thing's going so bad in my life, I have no money. And my mentor says, well, are you going to stop spending money on things that don't matter? I'm like, no, then all we're doing is wasting our God, our bosses, our coaches, our mentors, our those people's times because it's not something that wants to be fixed.
So we're just complaining at that point. We're not
complaining.
looking for them to help us solve the problem.
It's very selfish, isn't it?
Yes.
If we walk in just to vent about something that we're not willing to change, all we're doing is pooping other people's kitchen. We aren't actually going there with a mindset of something that needs to be fixed or that we're going to fix. Make sense? So I want you to think about trickling and how every comment, every action, every decision, every Facebook post, every social, every video, every interaction you have with people either lifts them up or drags them down.
You know, it's really interesting, Ben, because as you're drawing this, and folks, you've got your U in the middle, you've got your arrows going down, you've got your arrows going up, and you got your arrows going left and right with the walls around you to protect. If you started putting some people's names on it, depending on the situation, you could get the same names all around that page, right? There are going to be times that, Ben, you might be that person I trickle up to. Yep. I got a problem with the podcast. I got a problem with what's going on here or something, and so I'm going to trickle up to you as the boss in that situation.
Because you think I can solve.
Because I believe you have a solution to it or can at least be a part of the solution I have. So you're an up. Well, then at other times, you're on the side because you're just a friend, you're a peer, we're having the relationship that we have as friends. And now all of a sudden, I've got things that I'm trickling sideways to you. And then there are other times where I have to trickle down even to you, bringing the positive, bringing the accountability that comes to it. Because maybe the situation is something that's going on at home with Nita and I. I don't need to be bringing that to you. That's where I've got to put that wall
you
going
might trickle down health tips, knowledge, stuff like that down to Ben, or he kind of looks up to you in that health department potentially, right? So yeah, I mean, that's a really...
So what I want you guys to understand as you're listening is the names can go all around this page. And the example Ben gave once, long time ago, as you mentioned at the beginning, we've talked about this for a long time. This has made a big impact for me. Think about being on an airplane. We've all been on an airplane at some point, probably, and there's turbulence. Well, you want the pilot to stop doing that, okay? Or the pilot is one of those that talks a lot. Nothing drives me crazier on a plane than a pilot that wants to be like a tour guide. I'm like, just quiet down, right? Yet I can't trickle to the pilot. I have to trickle to the flight attendant, who then decides whether my problem is worthy to take to the pilot. So sometimes, even though you want to go right to the top, you've got to go to the person that is still just the up for you to get that solution and work on that problem. They have to then figure out where it goes from there.
Bob, what are the takeaways you have from this conversation?
Should stop cheering for the Seahawks.
That's a big one, yes.
Stop getting mad at. I guess, like, you know, I've heard this discussion before, but hearing you say it today, like we've mostly talked around this kind of in the past, or what I've heard around the trickling down to your kids or the people that work for you or the people that you lead. We've talked a lot around that idea of like positivity, right? You don't come and like you say, poop in somebody's kitchen. You kind of have this positive. I'd never really thought though about this idea of like trickling down models and systems and plans. And it's kind of this, when I start to put that lens on it, it makes me realize that it's a much more holistic approach. There's a lot more here than what I maybe initially gave it credit for, right? I always thought about this as something where I was, modeling behavior, right? Like that positive behavior. I didn't think about those other aspects of it, the models and the systems and the plans and how you're actually like trickling these things down to your kids. So that was a little bit of an aha for me. The other thing that I don't know if you've changed your philosophy on this, if I just interpreted it a certain way. I take my frustrations, like I share those with my peers. Like Josiah would be a peer of mine, and maybe I shouldn't do this, but him and I kind of, we do that with each other. But when we have the positive side, look, we're totally bought in, but so I have to maybe reassess whether that's okay that I would bring that frustration to Josiah, or that we kind of commiserate on some of those frustrations. I don't know that I've ever.
What energy are you walking away from those conversations with, and what energy is Josiah
and I
walking away?
are the conversations we're having around our business. We are both super passionate about this business, and so I don't think either one of us is leaving like, oh man, we just look. There's a lot of opportunity. Things can get better. Right. So it's more in that kind of vein.
If it's a problem-solving opportunity or a way to then bring something together, trickling sideways is perfect. Wouldn't you agree, Ben?
I think maybe that's a little bit more what it is. It's Josiah and I do have Ben's given us the leverage around here and the power to go out and actually affect change in the organization. So maybe there is some of that. Like we do have the ability to solve some of these problems together. And so we're kind of working on them together.
Those are really great comments. We trickle down to our children, to our employees, our habits, our spending. We go buy a new car, maybe our employees go buy a new car. Our parents have bad financial habits, then maybe we end up with that. Our parents are in poverty, maybe we end up in poverty. Our parents didn't fight nice, maybe we don't fight nice with our spouses. Some of the things that stood out to me, Bob, when you were talking is, if somebody else that I cared about was watching me have an interaction with an employee or somebody that I cared about, a personal relationship, my parents or whatever, like would they be impressed or depressed with that conversation? Would I be happy if they, treated their person the same way? Like, are we a good example for our kids? Bob, you and Aaron, when you guys fight, are you guys a good example to your kids on how you would want them to resolve conflicts or fight with their person once they get to that age, right? It's an interesting question for us to have. I think about this, where we're at in the center, and I like how you say, Chad, that it changes from time to time. My dad's a good example. My dad's a close friend of mine. We live 2 miles away now, and I will sometimes go to him and share what problems I'm having. What was funny was one time I said, things at work are really tough. We're trying to work through these things. And my sister called me a week or two later and she said, Dad said you're having financial problems. And I said, what do you mean? What? And I'm like, yeah, things at work are tough. I don't have any financial problems. But that's what my dad heard. And my dad probably worried for days or weeks about me when it was completely unwarranted.
Right.
I have to be very careful how I say things and what I say, because I could put an unneeded burden of worry on people in our world, right? Yeah. Maybe even employees. When we say, if we don't get this fixed, we're really screwed. We might be thinking like it's going to be really a crappy week or day. They might be thinking the company's going to die if we don't fix this. Might be some benefits to that in some ways, right? Well, I hope you all think a lot about how you're trickling and what direction you're trickling. What is the goal of those trickles? Are you leaving people with more energy than when you met them? Are you trickling up to the right type of people? Are you creating walls so other people don't hold you down or sink you on your daily journey? I hope this lesson of trickling was impactful for you all to think about. Make sure you go into our Facebook group and share some ahas from the Trickle Effect. and let us know what you think.
And whether you're going to trickle up, down, left, right, it doesn't matter which way and to who. Make sure you're trickling the podcast to them, right? Send them to winmakegive.com so they can subscribe and get every episode that we've got. As Ben said, join us at facebook.com/groups/winmakegive, where we continue the conversations after the episodes. Until the next time, remember, wash those hands, and as always, do good.